The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
Wrestling to the Max, NXT Review.
And we are live to tape on the W2M Network as this is the Wrestling to the Max NXT review for, help me out here, June 30th, Brandon?
Yes.
I think was the official date?
Yes, it was. No, May 30th. You're skipping a whole month.
Yeah, I'm just excited for July to get here. I'm going to Extreme Rules.
Oh, that's cool. I was telling Jason this last night when we were doing the fantasy football podcast, but Extreme Rules just got a lot more interesting for me after what I found out last night when I went on a beer run, or yesterday when I went on a beer run.
No spoilers, homie.
What do you mean spoilers?
Don't tell me what they announced because I don't want to know.
No, it wasn't. No, it's nothing in terms of the matches or anything. No. I do this thing where, like, you know, based on what city, like, either a show is in or, like, for the NFL games or MLB, I'll drink one of the local beers from that area. And I found out that Iron City, the liquor store that I normally go to for all my craft beer, they're carrying Iron City now, so I can get it for Extreme Rules.
Well, I'll be in the arena having eaten at Pizza Milano beforehand. We should probably tell everybody who we are, huh?
Yeah, we probably should.
That might help. Hi, everyone. We're off to a fabulous start.
Yeah,
already.
we're just going to go off on a tangent right off the bat.
Anyway, I'm Harry Broadhurst. He is the Decepticon to my Autobot, Brandon Biskobing.
You're not going to go further with that and say that I am your Megatron to your Optimus Prime?
You know, I thought about it, but I figured the generalization would have worked better for the Transformers.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
Either way. As you can tell, Gary's not with us. Unfortunately, Gary's family circumstances have once again taken him off of the network. Hopefully, he'll be back as soon as he possibly can. Not a moment sooner. Our best thoughts and wishes go out to Gary and Amanda.
Yep.
With that being said, Brandon, we have an episode of NXT to cover for May 30th, 2018.
You're completely jumping over Money in the Bank, too, by the way.
Yeah, well, you know, Extreme Rules going to be there. Plus, Money in the Bank is in Chicago, and everybody knows nothing good happens in Chicago. Patrick.
What's wrong with Chicago?
That was a shot at one of my former co-hosts. He knows who he is. He'll find it funny. We'll move on.
I know who you're talking about, yes.
All right, so anyway, what do you say we go ahead and get underway with this review here?
Let's do it.
All right. We start with a hype video because that's traditionally what we do on these episodes of NXT, building up to tonight's main event, as well as talking about what's going to happen with the Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano situation. Gargano, Ciampa 2, this time in a Chicago street fight at TakeOver Chicago. Okay, so I don't want to skip over TakeOver Chicago because that'll probably be an awesome show.
Exactly.
Okay, so maybe I shouldn't skip the month of June. My anniversary's in June, so I really shouldn't skip over that.
Well, I'm completely drawing a blank on your girlfriend's name now. Wow, that's bad.
Christine, smooth.
There we go. And my anniversary with Tori is actually today, so.
Oh, and she's letting you record a podcast.
Yes, well, I got us sushi, so, and we're doing stuff later after I'm done.
You wife this woman. You wife her now. Anywho.
Soon enough.
Back to the show now.
Yes.
I think we're done tangenting for now.
No, we're not. You know we're not.
No, not at all. But that's okay. For now, we'll take a break so we can actually talk about the show.
Yes.
Our actual in Full Sail opening for the show is to them that truly do good. To them that truly are evil. As Brandon's dog once again starts up on us here, Aleister Black makes his way into the Full Sail Arena to discuss the fact that he does not have an opponent for TakeOver Chicago yet. Lars Sullivan interrupts him and tells him, hate to burst your bubble, but you do, and it's me. And the match that nobody wanted to see is officially made.
I'm okay with it.
You know what? I don't dislike Sullivan. It's just that there are so many more interesting people to be in the title scene right now than him.
But name some people and I'll give you the reasons why they're not.
I mean, we're not going to sit here for 10, 15 minutes playing show and tell. I understand that there's a lot of other people in important storylines here. Adam Cole's wrapped up in the...
He's got the North American title.
Not to mention, he's wrapped up in the whole thing with the Undisputed Era.
Exactly.
Pete Dunne has the UK title and is wrapped up in that whole Undisputed Era thing as well. Velveteen Dream and Ricochet are wrapped up with each other.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Something about Sullivan doesn't sit right as a contender to the heavyweight title to me. I like him as a character, but I don't buy him as a threat, if that makes sense.
I definitely have to disagree with that. I mean, they've definitely built him up as a dominant force. He's basically, at least in terms of character and everything, in my opinion, he's basically a smaller Braun Strowman. And, you know, I see him as a legitimate threat. So I like this match. You know, yeah, could you have put a few guys that are a little more technically gifted in the ring against Aleister Black? Yeah, of course. But I'm perfectly fine with this matchup.
Well, anyway, what happens at the end of the segment is Aleister goes for Black Mass, and Sullivan catches it and counters it into the freak accident to leave Aleister Lang holding the title up over him. Yes, still not saying it. Our opening contest, scheduled for one fall, is War Raiders.
No. False. War Machine!
Of Hanson and Rowe taking on Jobber A and Jobber B, because quite frankly, I don't remember their names, nor do I care enough to look them up. Harsh? Maybe, but factual.
Accurate? Absolutely.
Indeed. It is a complete squash match. Jimmy and Johnny Boots and Tights have no chance in this one. It ends with fallout at 2 minutes and 45 seconds. But with the tag team champions busy already at TakeOver Chicago, as they've already announced that Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch will take on Kyle O'Reilly and Roderick Strong for the tag belts in Chicago, kind of leaves War Raiders out in the lurch, doesn't it?
I mean, it's still early to where, like, they're gonna build them up. Like, honestly, this is why I said, you know, especially with them doing the whole tag, you know, the whole match between Lorcan and Burch and Undisputed Era for the tag titles during this takeover. That's why I said I would have liked them to have done, even if you wanted to kind of get it out of the way right away, I would have liked them to have done a Heavy Machinery versus War Machine feud going into TakeOver Chicago. And do that as a match at TakeOver Chicago, and then you could have War Machine move on to the tag titles at TakeOver Brooklyn.
Well, I think the problem therein lies with the fact that usually NXT only puts like 5 matches on their card, and they already have 2 non-title matches announced, with the announced at the start of the show, Gargano Ciampa street fight, and then one that we confirm a little bit later on in the show that pretty much everybody saw coming after last week, which would be Ricochet and Velveteen.
I get that. I can understand why that is. But especially with them now having the the US title, unless they're not going to have the US title be defended at TakeOver. I think I think they're slowly starting to expand the show, and I think they could go to 6 or 7 matches and still be okay.
No, the question's going to be is wherein do the loyalties lie as far as how much they want to put on the card, how many people, and what all they want to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see what happens there. All right, backstage, Lacey Evans is interviewed. She talks about the fact that she got her win back against Kairi Sane last week, and that while Kairi Sane may have won the Mae Young Classic, it's Lacey Evans' woman's right holding up her right hand because apparently she has the power of the punch to win again and settle this in the decisive match 3 next week. On a show where William Regal is the general manager, I think I'm okay with somebody using a sucker punch as a finish. I feel like I'm more okay with it on this show than I would be on a Raw or a SmackDown, just because of the fact that William Regal was the GM.
Yeah, I could see that.
Maybe it's just me. Anywho, our next contest, scheduled for one fall, is Ricochet taking on Chris. Wait, I skipped a match. Sorry. Stop. Rewind. Our next match, scheduled for one fall, is I am the top 1%.
AKA the situation doppelganger.
Okay, how dare you bring Jersey Shore into this? You terrible, terrible person.
This is on Tori. You can get all your hate out at her for this one. She said this
one. I will. She's lucky it's your anniversary, or I'd have very not nice things to say. But since it's your anniversary, I'll be pleasant. Anywho, what was I going to say? Oh yeah. EC3, Ethan Carter III, taking on Cruiserweight Classic competitor Fabian Eichner. Again, another squash match. The TK3, as it was known in TNA, finishes. However, the important thing to discuss here is the fact that during this match, Johnny Gargano, comes down to the ring and announces that he has signed the contract and is handing it to Mauro Ranallo, of all people, to give to Commissioner Regal to let him know that, yeah, this is happening. I'm good to go right in the middle of this match. I think we may have just found EC3's next feud.
This was great.
NXT never does stuff like that without having a reason for it.
Yes.
And the reason is probably going to be EC3 punching Johnny Gargano in the face. Well, in or about the face. Somewhere in that general vicinity. Your thoughts on the match? And then the fact that Gargano got involved in the way that he did.
I mean, the match is pretty much what you would expect. But yeah, the best part of the match for me by far was definitely Gargano interrupting just to go hand the contract over to Morrow and saying, "Here's the signed contract, the match is set, we're going to Chicago."
Chicago or bust, bitches.
The only thing, and maybe they're not, maybe they're trying to backtrack on this, or maybe not, I don't know. But the only thing about how this went with him handing the contract over that I was a little confused about, that they didn't do anything with it on TV, was they have that whole... Did you see the video that they shot last week with Gargano picking up the contract from FedEx?
No, I did not see that.
He goes in and he picks up the contract, and then Candace walks in behind him and she's like, "What you got there?" And then she looks at it and she's like, "Seriously?" And then she just walks out. They're trying to do a little dissension between the two. And I don't know if they're trying to backtrack from that or if they're going to bring that up later. But I'm surprised that they didn't show that on TV.
I'm honestly not surprised that they didn't show that on TV. They kind of teased it with the fact that Candice has said that she's done being involved in this. She's not going to stand by and watch Johnny turn into something he hates.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, they kind of talked about it on television a little bit, but they didn't go into any kind of specificity about it.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I loved seeing Johnny just interrupt him nonchalantly, not caring about the match or anything, and just coming out and handing the contract to Morrow and be like, yeah, this is the signed contract. Get this to Regal.
Like I said, I think it leads somewhere if I had to venture a guess.
Oh, definitely.
NXT
especially with how egotistical EC3 is, like, it's definitely going to be one of those, like, how dare you interrupt my match type of things.
My match, my moment, my whatever you want to call it for him.
Mm-hmm.
Another highlight package for Bianca Belair airs here, and I got to tell you, Paul can kind of attest to this as well, even though we don't really see Paul much around these parts anymore. When Paul, Patrick, and I were doing the Mae Young Classic reviews here, Bianca Belair is somebody who really impressed us in the Mae Young Classic, and specifically the match that she had with Kairi Sane in the second round. She's somebody that we've been kind of seeing taking a bigger role in NXT now that NXT has had the call-ups that they have there. And despite the fact that she comes off so dislikable as a character, her in-ring ability is going to be more than enough to help multiple fans kind of flock towards her personality-wise. What are your thoughts on Bianca Belair?
I mean, I've liked what I've seen so far with her a lot. The thing about it that's weird, like you said, you know, if they wanted to use her that way, she could definitely be a very good heel of, like, oh, I'm better than everyone, you know, EST and all of that. But it seems, just based on what she's done so far, it seems like they're positioning her as a face.
It's almost like they can't decide what they want her to be, honestly.
I mean, while, yes, this whole vignette came off, like, semi-heelish, it was very much so more of her just explaining her past. It didn't, like, nothing that she's done so far in NXT really screams heel to me.
Well, I mean, she's, actually, now that I think about it, you might be onto something there. It's more with how she carries herself rather than anything that she's actually done from a character perspective.
Well,
I don't
yes.
think we've seen it. I also don't think we've seen enough of an in-ring product in order to be able to make a firm judgment either.
I'll give you that. I will give you that, because she's only been in, 3 matches, and all of them have been squashes?
Well, there was the one match where she beat Kairi Sane.
Did she beat? Oh, yeah, you're right. But wasn't that through interference with Lacey?
Lacey may have gotten involved in some way, yes, but she did pick up a win over Kairi Sane, so obviously that's gotta do something to tell you what they kind of think of her, you know?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, she's definitely, I mean, honestly, and I hate to say it because I'm really disappointed that this is the order that it seems that it's going. The top 4 women out of the Mae Young Classic, well, top 5, I would say, in this order is obviously Baszler's on top with her being the champion and everything. Then I would say it's a toss-up between Bianca Belair and Lacey Evans at this point. Then Dakota Kai, then Kairi Sane is 5th. Which is really shocking.
I think there's more of a story to be told with Kairi down the road rather than just kind of rushing her into anything. I'm more okay with Kairi taking her time.
I'm okay with it too. I just don't want her to kind of, just be forgotten about.
Sparkle and fade?
Yes, exactly.
I get that. I don't think she's going to be somebody that gets lost in the shuffle, though. I really don't.
I don't want her to become the new TJP.
The winner of the CWC that kind of faded into obscurity once he dropped the belt.
Yep.
And that's a valid concern, but I trust NXT a lot more than I trust the main roster when it comes to stuff like
True.
that. I feel like there's going to be a plan for Kairi Sane down the road once she gets done with the whole Lacey Evans thing.
One can only hope.
All right. We continue on, and now our next match scheduled for one fall
One fall.
is Ricochet taking on the debuting Chris Donovan Dijak.
They changed his first name.
No Donovans were injured in the mentioning of this name. They were just dropped in a dead zone somewhere that Sprint provides service to. In all sincerity, though, what do you think of Chris Dijak?
I mean, he definitely...
Like, not the person, like the ring name.
Yeah. I mean, it just sounds weird to me, but whatever. But, I mean, he definitely showed a little something. It wasn't a complete squash, you know. They actually allowed him to show a little bit of his talent while he was in the ring with Ricochet.
Yeah, there was significantly more back and forth in this match than I thought there might be, but the fact of the matter is Dijak's television debut ends up seeing him take an L in about 2 minutes and 15 seconds.
Well, I mean... In spite of how, you know, how big he was, you know, I mean, he wasn't the biggest guy in Ring of Honor anyway, but in spite of
he was
how...
one of the bigger.
He was one of the bigger guys, yes, I'll give you that. But in spite of, you know, how high he was in Ring of Honor, how long did it take him to even get on TV in NXT? So, I mean, it's not really, you know, I didn't really expect all that much, considering they've, you know, unless they were really gonna, like, suddenly thrust him into a big spot, which, you know, it just, him taking that long, I think, was a sign.
Well, the rumor that I had heard is that he had suffered an injury that he was recovering from before he came into NXT.
Oh, okay. That makes some sense. But, yeah, I just... In spite of how big he was in Ring of Honor, I don't think he's going to do a ton in WWE.
I'm sadly inclined to agree, at least not on the NXT level. I think that his big push is going to happen on the main roster once they've realized that a guy of his size with his athletic ability is inside of the company. Vince tends to gravitate towards people with that kind of size and that kind of agility.
True.
So I think that he would be much more likely to be successful if he makes it up to the main roster.
Mm-hmm. I'll give you that.
The match itself sees Ricochet pick up the win with the 630 senton, and then he calls out Velveteen Dream for turning on him last week. You wouldn't know that because there was no NXT review here on the W2M network last week. Our bad. Stuff happens. I was just getting back from being out of state. Yep. Anywho. Velveteen comes out to argue the experience and says that anything Ricochet can do, Velveteen can do better. So Ricochet decides to question that theory by front flipping over the top rope, landing on his feet, and saying to Velveteen, "Prove it." Velveteen's jaw drops, his microphone drops, his confidence drops, and he slithers backstage as we put an end to the segment. I gotta say, pretty good little segment here.
Yeah, it was definitely a good segment. Not Ricochet. Velveteen Dream is just so weird, and some of his promos are very odd. Let's put it that way.
You don't think that that's on purpose?
Oh no, it definitely is on purpose. I'm just saying.
See, the thing about it is, though, is that he's such a daring character, and he's so into the character, which is what I really like.
I'll agree with that, but he is definitely one of those characters that if he does ever go up to the main roster, and it is Vince's main roster still, yeah, you know exactly what's going to happen there.
I mean, that strikes me as people for the ethical treatment of... wrong organization. Are we looking at Glad here? Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, whatever that. Yeah. Actually, that's actually the exact group I'd be thinking of.
The gay and lesbian anti-defamation.
Yes.
gimmick thingy?
Yes.
Yeah, something tells me that would not end well.
No.
Anywho, our main event, scheduled for one fall,
One fall.
is Shayna Baszler defending the NXT Women's title against Dakota Kai. Dakota Kai is the captain of Team Kick. Shayna Baszler is the captain of Team Kick Ass. That's more or less what she does to Dakota here until the end of the match.
Pretty much. I hate to say it because I honestly think that if given the proper the proper ring work and everything, that she could be successful. As of right now, based on what she's shown me so far in her three or four matches on NXT outside of the Mae Young Classic.
Dakota?
No, Baszler.
Baszler, it's been a couple.
Yeah, but however many it is, she basically is the NXT's Brock.
And well, at least she shows up.
What? No. I'm not talking about in that sense. I'm saying she's, her matches are very boring because it's just her beating someone down and there's no back and forth at all.
See, Baszler comes off as enough of a legitimate badass to me that I think I'm okay with this, though. Not to mention, you heard the pop for what happened after the match that we'll get into in a few seconds here. So when you can build up a character like that to get to the kind of reactions like they got to after the match here, then I think that there's something there. That character can work in modern wrestling.
I'll agree with that, but it can only last so long.
I'm not sure if I agree with that.
We'll see where this goes, but especially with who I would assume is going to be her next challenger, and her character and personality, her getting beaten down, unless you're gonna play it the best example I can probably, describe is, Brock versus Dean at WrestleMania, where it's just she keeps on beating her down, but she just keeps on smiling. It's come on, bring more, something like that. That's the only way that this match will work in that way.
I think it's more like Brock Roman in that regard, where you could have Shayna throwing everything she has at Nikki, and Nikki still bringing the fight to her.
Yeah. But I was just thinking more in that crazy side of, she's enjoying the pain and everything.
Well, let's go ahead and talk about what we were referring to here. Oh, before we do so, Kirifuda clutch, tap out, 5 minutes and 40 seconds. Do you think it hurts Dakota Kai to get this opportunity against Baszler and then lose in less than 6?
This whole storyline has hurt Dakota. So, this loss is with the storyline that they've built up isn't really a surprise. The biggest surprise, honestly, is that she actually got some offense out. And we'll see where that goes moving forward. But with the storyline that they were building around this, there's no surprise on this.
Well, what happens is after the match, Shayna attempts to relock in the Kirifuda clutch after referee Drake Younger Wirtz had already broken it up. Nikki Cross comes out and makes the save. Oh, well, I kind of gave that away a little bit earlier.
And we kind of saw this happening a couple of weeks ago.
Well, anywho, Baszler's not sure what to make of this either, but the crowd is definitely in favor of Nikki Cross.
Mm-hmm.
Baszler attempts to leave. Cross comes up to Baszler and steals the title. She gets back into the ring and dares her to try to come and get it. By the time Baszler gets into the ring, Nikki Cross is ready to fight and tells Baszler that she wants a match for the NXT Women's Championship right then and there, and Dakota Kai is the referee. Nikki hands the belt to Dakota. Baszler gets in Dakota's face. Cross hits Baszler with the purr.
You there? Wait. Oh.
Apologies for a little bit of technical difficulties there. I'm still here. So what happens is Nikki Cross hands off the women's title to Dakota Kai. Shayna Baszler gets in Dakota Kai's face, saying that's her title. Nikki Cross hits Shayna Baszler with the Purge, the Fisherman's Neckbreaker. Dakota Kai counts the 3, and we have a new NXT Women's... Oh, wait, no, that doesn't count as a title change.
If only.
I want to get your thought on the addition of Nikki Cross to this dynamic. Do you think it's a straight-up singles match? Do you think it's a triple threat? Where do you think that we go for the TakeOver Chicago with the women's division here?
Well, first off, I kind of saw this coming ever since that little outdoor press conference that Dakota had where Nikki appeared behind her a couple of weeks ago and was like, you need to, get some fire in you and everything. I'm going to tell you what I hope happens and then what I have a feeling will happen. What I hope happens, which I know more than likely will not happen, but it would be hilarious and awesome to see. And honestly, if you really wanted to do things with it, you could easily do a lot of things with it, if you so chose. But actually make that match that Nikki made official. Not currently, don't give Nikki the title, but actually make that match in that format with Dakota as a special guest referee at TakeOver Chicago.
You don't think having Dakota as the referee overshadows the 2 women competing for the title? Because I kind of think that it might.
Not if you did it the right way. I mean, yes, it's going to create an extra dynamic, but, you could do a lot of things with it.
It just seems like too many moving parts to me is what I'm saying, though.
You might be right. But more than likely, I have a feeling that it's going to be a straight-up one-on-one match between Shayna and Nikki Cross. But I have a feeling that Dakota is going to interfere in some way.
Yeah, I think Dakota plays a factor, but
yes.
I don't think she's as big of a factor as this would lead you to believe that she might be.
Mm-hmm.
And that officially wraps up this episode of NXT. Brandon, scale of 1 to 10, where do you fall?
I'll give it a 6.5. I mean, some of the things that they did were kind of interesting. The opening with Black and Lars Sullivan. They made the match for TakeOver. The segment with Dream and Ricochet was good. While the match wasn't all that great, the whole Nikki, Dakota, and Baszler thing, it was an interesting dynamic there, and the post-match stuff was great. But other than that, like we talked about, the rest of the matches on this card weren't exactly the biggest in the world. They were mostly squash matches. I mean, the best part of any of those matches was when Gargano interrupted the EC3 match to hand his contract in.
I think that we set the stage for some bigger and better things to come forward in NXT.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't think that we actually accomplished much of anything on tonight's episode. I'm giving tonight's episode of NXT a 5.5. The Ricochet Velveteen Dream segment was fantastic, and those two are going to tear the house down at TakeOver Chicago.
Oh, yeah.
Gargano and Ciampa are going to murder each other in Chicago once again for our entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
Baszler and Nikki Cross, if they don't screw with it too much, has the potential to be one of the better women's matches of the calendar year.
Yep.
There's also a lot to question coming out of this show here. Like I said earlier, I do not buy Lars Sullivan as a threat to Aleister Black's title. That's just a personal thing. I don't especially care for Sullivan. I don't know what they're doing with Hanson and Rowe. I don't know what they're doing with Chris Dijak now that they've brought him to the main roster. I do like what's going to happen with EC3 because I think EC3 and Gargano will be an excellent feud if that is the path that they travel. Not to mention, having EC3 cost Gargano that match gives Ciampa something to brag about, moves Gargano away from Ciampa, and allows us to start the next stage of all of these men's careers in NXT, so I'm all for it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of potential coming out of the show. The question will be how much of that potential will actually be realized and how much of it is just that only potential.
I have a quick question for you because you just brought it up. I know that this is going to be a street fight and everything, but especially with how WWE is, and with how Brooklyn has over the last couple of years. No, I know that. I'm talking about Brooklyn in August. With how Brooklyn has been the culmination of a lot of storylines in NXT in the past. Sasha Bailey, KO and Baszler. Do you think that Ciampa gets his win back and we go to Ciampa Gargano 3 in Brooklyn in maybe Hell in a Cell or another match type that maybe we've never seen in NXT?
Well, if you believe the rumors, the match at TakeOver Chicago actually got changed.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Because originally they were supposed to be doing Last Man Standing.
Yeah.
And then they took that stipulation for the main show the next night at Money in the Bank between Shinsuke Nakamura and AJ Styles.
So maybe we get the Last Man Standing match at Brooklyn.
I'd say it's entirely possible. We'll see what happens here, Brandon. There's a lot of ways they could go with this. We'll see what they end up doing.
Oh, yes.
Do we have anything else to add on this particular episode?
Nope, not that I think of.
You know what you should talk about?
What? Oh, the Fantasy Football Podcast?
You should?
Yeah, we have episode 2 out. We talk about, we do a little, early draft predictions, getting you ready for your fantasy football drafts. This week we talked quarterbacks and tight ends. So the top 10 quarterbacks in the draft, and the top 10 tight ends for your fantasy football draft. Next week, we'll do running backs and wide receivers, and then the following week, we're going to do a two-round mock draft. So be sure to tune in for those.
You guys are going to do a 2-round mock draft for the players that were in the draft, or an actual...
No, full. I was confused about that, too, at first. No, this is everyone, not just for rookies.
Okay, and how many teams are you going to mock draft?
I don't think we haven't fully discussed that, but probably 12.
So for a 12-team mock?
Yeah.
I feel like you're going to have to get a couple of people to sit in for that mock draft.
We may have to bring in the full kickoff for that one.
Speaking of which, August 8th is the tentative return date for the kickoff. We begin back once we do the kickoff here. What we're going to do is we're going to start with our college football preview edition, and then we're going to slowly but surely make our way into our AFC and NFC prediction specials as well. And we're going to wrap it all up in one tidy little bow, probably at the end of the NFC predictions, by giving you our Super Bowl predictions as well. That will be on the kickoff starting August the 8th, coming back later this year. If you're interested, you can listen to the kickoff breakdown the NFL draft, both preview it before it happened and review it afterwards here on the W2M Network, available online at W2M.net. Anything else before we get out of here?
Nope.
You can listen to him on Raw, SmackDown 205 Live. I'm sure if there's another show added, he'd probably do it. Hell, if they brought back the Impact review, he'd probably be involved.
No. Impact. Impact is a no-no.
You draw the line at Impact. I actually kind of do want to watch their most recent Under Pressure pay-per-view, Super Impact.
See, the only reason why I kind of want to maybe get back into Impact is for their current champion, Aries, and for...
Spoiler!
Yes. And, what?
I was about to watch the title match between Penta and Aries. Spoiler, thanks.
Sorry. And because Swanee is going over there now.
You've officially just heard the breakup of a friendship, everybody. God, I hate that when that happens. Suck. No, but in all seriousness, though, yeah, I just, there's enough people over there that interest me that I'm willing to give it a shot. Plus, the people in charge over there right now, Scott D'Amore and Don Callis.
I do love me some Don Callis.
Scott D'Amore and Don Callis have proven they're perfectly competent capable of running the Federation.
And one of the best gimmicks, or one of the best talk shows in pro wrestling right now. Dummy, yeah.
Let me get this straight for you, sir. That is Eli Drake, who will be in NXT by this time next year. You can bank on that.
Damn it, another great gimmick that we're going to lose. I still want some dummy, yeah.
No, I think he keeps it.
You really think he'll be able to bring that over?
They let the talent retain the rights to the characters now, remember?
Oh, you're right. Yes, I want to see that in NXT. That would be awesome. The first NXT talk show segment. We haven't had one in NXT yet.
He's going to just start walking up to people and going, dummy.
Yeah.
So, for Brandon Biskobing, I'm Harry Broadhurst, thanking you for listening to the Wrestling to the Max NXT review for May 30th, 2018. This show was a cluster. We apologize for nothing. Thanks for listening. We might be back next week. I don't know what's going on.
Doubtful.
We don't know on a week basis around here anymore. Well, good night, everybody. W2mnet.com.